All right. Hello, everybody out there in Facebook world. Hope everybody's had a good week. I've been planning on doing this live video for a couple of days now, and been talking with a number of people. There's a number of things that I'd like to talk about tonight, and I have some guests coming on with me to talk about a subject that I've been getting pretty well educated on over the last couple of years here, which is CPS reform. And something really interesting has come across in the last couple of days that I wanted to bring up just to kind of start the conversation, which is there was a letter that was posted on Facebook across a lot of the groups that I'm in about a dental office in Pennsylvania who sent out a letter to some of their clients because their child had apparently gotten behind on their dental checkups. And I guess out in Pennsylvania, they've got some sort of law or something now that says that every 6 months you have to have a dental checkup, or the dental office now has to inform the state that you are neglecting the dental care of your child. Now, of course, that sounds great in theory because we want our children to have good dental care and we want our children to be well taken care of. But, anybody who's had a child knows that, there's times when things, get busy. Maybe you haven't been able to get your child into their appointment. And to have this dental office actually send a letter threatening to turn the parents into the state for neglecting their child's dental care sounds a bit disturbing to me. It's a bit threatening to have your dental office do this, and not only does it make that dental office look bad, but it's also a reflection of some of the overreach that our state institutions have been involved with, and that's what brings me to the topic we're here to talk about tonight, and something that I've been getting more and more concerned about because of all the different stories that I've heard about CPS and Friends of the Court and all of these different organizations that are supposed to be out there supposedly protecting the best interest of our children, but yet their policies and practices are violating our constitutional rights. People are having their children taken from them unjustly, and all sorts of negative consequences are happening because of this state overreach. And one of the things that I became involved with last year was the Million Parent March, and what that was, it was an event to raise awareness about all of the different family court issues, and we combined that with a number of people and organizations that were interested in CPS and foster care reform. So since that time, we've realized that a lot of the root causes of these problems are very interrelated. A lot of it has to do with social workers that aren't following the proper policies and procedures, and people with who are either being complacent or outright corrupt that are taking children unjustly away from their parents. And so I'm not going to get really, really deep into that because I have some guests that I'd like to bring on. But there's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of folks that are speaking out about these different issues, and a lot of people that can help educate you guys far better than I can. I've been getting much more involved with that sort of thing, with working on legislation here in the state of Washington and speaking out for parents across the country. This is an issue that I'm concerned with, and a lot of other people are concerned with, and this is one of the opportunities that we have to kind of share our cause and look at some of the root causes that are leading to these injustices. So I'm going to go ahead and tag a few people in this live video if I can figure out how to do that. And I've got a couple of guests that are going to come on with me tonight. There's some stories that I've heard from some ladies here in the state of Washington about their experience with CPS and their experiences with the family court system. And if I can get them to come on here live, they are going to join us tonight and share a little bit of their story and their experience. So hopefully they're listening and ready to chime in here at any moment. Let me see if I can go ahead and tag some people in this live video here. And please feel free to share this video if you have other people that might be interested in hearing about this particular topic or joining in, making comments. If you have any kind of questions, feel free to share the video out, chime in with comments, and we'd love to make this an interactive conversation with anybody that cares to join us. Just give me one minute here to add some folks. Oh, okay. That's why I wasn't getting any join requests. Okay, Cory and Shavon, whenever you are ready, go ahead and request to be added. I'll go ahead and add you in here. I just had to enable that in my feed there. I didn't realize I had to do that. While I'm waiting for you to join in, I'm going to go ahead and share this as well. All right, I see you're adding people too. Yeah, add anybody that you like. Let's try to make this as interactive as possible. I think this is going to be a really good topic of conversation. A lot of people are going to be interested in. Hey there, Wayne. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, we'll get going here in just a minute. So while we're waiting, I'll just get you guys going a little bit with some of the stuff we're doing here in the state of Washington. You know, I founded the organization Family Court Reform USA a few years ago. My experience with the family court system was not a good one. My parents split when I was younger, and so we didn't have a lot of experience with the family court system itself. The experience that we did have was pretty routine. And unfortunately, when my marriage didn't work out and I had to go through the family court system, our experience was very, very different from what it was that I was expecting. And, you know, I won't get into the details of that story, but since that time, I've actually spent quite a bit of time networking with people, talking with legislators, trying to do whatever I can to change what we know is a very a very flawed system. Some people say it's that way by design, that it's a corrupt system, and we have a lot of different perspectives and approaches on that. And we're going to have one tonight from some ladies who've dealt with both the family court system and CPS reform, or CPS. And I'd like to go ahead and bring on Shavon Davis and Cory Sem are going to join me now. Going to go ahead and add them. I think they should be coming on here any moment now. The solution is we unite and start a revolution. You know, John, I think there's a quiet revolution that's already begun. And as they say, the revolution will not be televised. So, Cory and Shavon, hi, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Hi. We're messing with my phone right now because we thought we could do it sideways, but we can't. So.
Not on Facebook Live, unfortunately. You got to have a profile be there.
And we don't want to sit here and hold the phone, so we better. I collect cigar boxes, so I have a stack of cigar boxes with a coffee mug with the phone set up. So, anyways,
you gotta improvise, overcome, and adapt, right?
Right. I have to move my chair back a little bit. We have to get situated. Sorry.
Get comfortable, get situated. You know, we've been talking for the last few days. I know I've seen both of your names out on social media and on some of the pages we have out here in Washington and across the country. I know both you ladies have been very, very active in a lot of the same causes as I have, and you've shared a little bit of your stories with me, and I thank you for that, and I thank you both for coming on tonight and you know, just getting the word out there and working towards the same cause that I am, and trying to better uphold the rights of parents and children, and trying to change this this very, very corrupt, backwards, and broken system that we're all dealing with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me, I don't know where we want to start here. So Cory, do you want to tell, you've kind of been in this this fight for parental rights for quite a while. Do you want to kind of tell a little bit about maybe what brought you into this movement, what your experience has been so far?
Oh, well, that's I don't even know where to begin with that. I can start, I guess, with that my children were falsely removed, and a lot of bad things happened to my kids in that process for about 1.5 years. And I don't know, that's what got me started in the movement. Not to mention, you know, we did file a lawsuit against Washington State CPS, Aberdeen CPS. So that's where I come in picture, because I really want to fight for parents that have experienced things similar to what I've gone through. And her, you know, so. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Something came up on my phone, so. And my dog's barking.
And you've been involved for quite a while because of your experience. I know that you've met Pam Roach and you've been involved with some of the things that she's done. You want to maybe give us a little bit of that history?
Well, I mean, she kind of somewhat, I kept her updated on my case when the kids were taken, and also through the lawsuit experience. So yeah, I was constantly calling Roach, and met her at her rally. I believe it was in 2008-ish when I attended her first rally, and that's where I met her, actually. So yeah, I stayed connected with her throughout the fighting for my children, and also the lawsuit. And she was just kind of a mentor, I guess.
Yeah, and Pam has been one of the, I'd say one of the most outspoken senators in the legislature about a lot of these issues. You know, I first met her when I became involved with the paternity fraud legislation, And, at the time when I first came into it, I didn't think that anybody in the legislature cared or even knew about these issues. And come to find out, she had already been working
Yeah.
on these issues for a long time, was very outspoken about it, was, would put her colleagues on the spot and tell them, hey,
Right.
this isn't right. This isn't right what's happening here. Why are we not changing these laws? And sometimes it's falling on deaf ears. If you've ever been to any of
Right.
these hearings, you have people coming in here with stories and laws that they want to change and really, really important points, but yet there's all this stuff that kind of goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people just don't really understand. I mean, even just the
Exactly.
basic process of getting a law
Right.
changed is very, very complicated, and it's not the way that we learned it on on Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday mornings. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. She's been amazing. I know she wanted to, I think you and I might have discussed it where she was talking about where social workers would be held accountable um, for lying on the stand, having other social workers, doctors, people that are involved with, dependencies for fudging paperwork, which happens frequently, as we know. Um, she wanted accountability, and and you know, for example, social workers lying on the stand. I dealt with that a lot. Flat out lying, even in depositions, just to keep the children in care. Um, and she wanted them to be punished for that. That's something that does need to happen.
Yeah, it absolutely blew my mind to find out about the whole right to lie case. When I heard
Oh,
about that, it just, to anybody, it's common sense that a social worker who's protecting children should not have the so-called right to lie, that they
right,
can actually come into court, that they can perjure themselves in court to remove a child when they should be held to the same standards as anybody else. They should be sworn
right,
in. They should be upholding an oath to actually protect children. So the whole idea that a judge had to tell them, wait a second, no, you don't have a right to come into a courtroom and lie to remove somebody's children from them, that just
right,
absolutely blew my mind. I mean, it
right.
doesn't, it's not what we think of when we think of justice and the way that our court system is supposed to work.
You broke up for just a little bit, just a second. It kind of went. What was the last thing you said?
I just said it's not what you would expect when you go into a courtroom, when you're expecting justice, when you're expecting them to uphold the law. The last person that you're expecting to come in there and lie and perjure themselves is a social
Right,
worker who's being paid by the state to protect the children and protect the rights of
right,
the parents, or at least theoretically they should be.
right. Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say something, but when you broke up, I lost my train of thought. It was something. Um, they do, and it's not just them. It was even, well, there was a lot. In my case, it was a lot of the social workers lying. Like I think I told you, and then they try to get the people that when you're having a dependency, um, to fudge, like just for example, my when I did my chemical dependency evaluation. I don't know if we talked about that last night or not because I was so exhausted, but she called. I passed the chemical dependency evaluation. And so what she did is she turned around and called the evaluator and told him that I had an extensive criminal history with multiple felonies, which is not true. Because he had to actually go and do a background check on me before he even laid eyes on me. Um, and fortunately, this guy called me and gave me a heads up because she was trying to flip my chemical dependency eval from pass to fail, but it didn't work. So he wouldn't budge. But a lot of times it does work, and that keeps the children in the system. Unfortunately, I've seen that happen time and time and time again. And some of those people just will go ahead and switch the. It almost seems like they're paid off to go ahead, or they're working with them. They're system players. The first person that did my first chemical dependency evaluation actually failed me. And then lied on the stand and said she failed me the second time. There was no second evaluation with her. She lied on the stand and bold-faced said as if it was the gospel, which is crazy. I can't believe what they can do to keep the children in the system. My lawyer told me, the lawyer that I hired, David, told me had I had hired him within the first week, and this is so unfortunate because a lot of people can't afford an attorney in these situations. It's expensive. My retainer was $5,000. He said had I had hired him in the first week that they had my kids, that he would have had my kids back. But a lot of parents can't afford to hire a lawyer, and it's just, and then that's where and sometimes those lawyers too that you hire as system players is like Russian roulette. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people, I think, that really take advantage of by the system. It's because they're trusting that the system is going to do the work that they're supposed to do. They can't afford to hire legal help, And
Right.
one of the things that the divorce court movie, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that documentary, but they actually exposed that there was a cottage industry that formed around the family court system where all of the different people, the guardian ad litums and the visitation centers and the psychologists and everybody within that system were basically all friends that were working together. So if a case came before them, they were already colluding to do pretty much whatever they wanted, and the facts
Yes,
didn't matter,
absolutely.
justice didn't matter. And if it can happen there and it can be exposed on such a broad scale, and then you've got the Cash for Kids scandal that happened out in Pennsylvania where, the two judges went to federal prison because they were essentially colluding for kickbacks from the private juvenile detention center to take kids that were, kids would get in trouble for something like truancy, and next thing you know, these judges would be sentencing them to a juvenile detention center and putting them away because they were friends with the people that actually owned the detention center and they needed to fill the beds there. And these
Right.
guys wound up going away to prison for that. So if these things are actually happening in these stories from all across the country of people that are saying, yeah, that happened in my county, that happened in my town, that happened in my city. You're talking about tens of thousands of people that this is happening to. That's a real problem that I think a lot of people just aren't exposed to. They just think, they
No,
automatically assume that that if your children get taken from you or if you're not treated fairly by the system, that you must have done something wrong. And they don't
absolutely.
realize how very, very corrupt the system can be.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. You're very right about that.
Now, I'm not sure if everybody in our feed knows both of you. I got an opportunity to
A
chat
lawyer in there.
with Shavon.
Someone was just asking me who my lawyers were, and I'm not exact. I don't want to scroll or put my hand in the way of the camera. But somebody was asking me, if you don't mind, if you're still watching, they were asking who my lawyer was. I don't know which state this person is from. But yeah, my lawyer's in here. I won't say her name though. She's watching. And I can say, love you, Janelle. Hey, I saw Melinda say something earlier. I love you, Melinda. But you can keep. Go ahead. Sorry, I just want to say I love you, Melinda.
It's all right. We want this to be an interactive conversation, so I'm kind of trying to keep up with some of these messages that are strolling across. There's a lot of names that I don't know on here. There's a lot of familiar faces too. So
Right.
welcome everybody. Thanks for for listening to this broadcast. Hopefully you'll share it so that we can help educate people about what's going on. If you haven't heard Cory's story, if you haven't heard about Shavon, which would I had an opportunity to talk with Shavon a little bit earlier today, hear just a little bit about her story. I know that one of the reasons why we started talking this week is because of you want to raise awareness about what happened to her baby Alyssa. So Shavon, I'd like to introduce you. If you'd like to maybe introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your story. Tell us what happened.
Well, my daughter Alyssa was taken. She was 10 days old. By my midwife. She had called CPS on me after my first visit when I was 7 months pregnant. and she had Googled my case in Michigan. She contacted CPS. CPS told her to let them know when Alyssa was born. Alyssa was born. This whole time from 7 months till July 9th, I was seeing her almost every week for iron tests. And not one of those times did she inform me that she had contacted anybody. I had Alyssa on July 9th. Just hours after I had her, I was still laying in the midwife's bed. She had called CPS while I was still laying in the bed to notify them that Alyssa had been born. I took Alyssa home the same day. CPS knocked on my door the very next day. I did not answer the door because I don't have to answer the door. They don't have a warrant. I don't have to answer the door. She claimed that she was there more than one time, and she was not, because I was there every day and I kept track of the times that she did show up.
Can I say something really quick, you guys? I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Can we not have cussing on in our feed, please? I'm not trying to be rude, but there's some comments with some cussing, and we don't want we don't just. I'm sorry for interrupting.
We don't want
no, that's fine, and I agree with you, because there's actually quite a few people that might watch this video. There's legislators, there's people that are, you know, maybe not impacted by these things, that they may not fully understand the pain that some of us have been through and some of the things that we've experienced, and they don't necessarily appreciate sometimes the anger and the frustration of people that have been through this system and been through some of the horrible experiences. And so it can be very, very emotionally charged. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that we want to, you know, educate about these issues and share these stories with, who might be turned away by the cursing. So I would agree with you. If people could refrain from cursing in the feed, that would be great.
We totally understand the anger. Like, I mean, I'll be honest. I cussed my head off probably for 7-8 years straight after when I was going through. I'm so sorry to interject, but seriously, I did for probably 7 years, 8 straight, because I was so angry. But like you just said, you know, and Layla, you're all good, but we just want to keep it clean, because we want to represent ourselves in a really decent light. And yeah, so I'm sorry. So I just had to say something, because I don't want to have to say it again, and it's not directed at one person. And so go ahead. Sorry, guys.
Okay, I kept track of every time they came to my house, and she only came once and left her card. The first time the second time they came to my house, they came a CPS worker plus 4 cops, that's including the chief of police of Des Moines, and they were trying to take Alyssa without papers. I had it on video, but I lost the video. It was on my ex's phone, so I don't have any of that evidence. She was trying to get me to stop videotaping her, and one of the police officers said that I can record because it was my property. So I was recording the whole thing. She bickered with me back and forth the whole time, and finally the cop had asked if they could just come in and look at the house. I had nothing to hide, so I let them come in the house. The cops came in the house. They seen that she had 2 sleeping areas. My house was perfectly clean. There was nothing wrong with it. She was not in harm's way. The caseworker started becoming very belligerent, and the cop turned around and told her to get out of my house, and she slammed the door on the caseworker, and he went through his normal questions, name, birthday, stuff like that. We went outside, and they were trying to still take her. They wanted to take her to the hospital to have a well baby check, and the cops even stated that day that she seemed like she was healthy, she was safe, and there was no reason to take her out of the house from me. We sat outside in the July heat when Alyssa was 9 days old. And at that time, it was 80, 90-degree weather outside. We sat outside for 4 to 5 hours waiting for them to decide what they were going to do. They kept trying to get me to hand her over to them so they could take her to the ER, and I refused. I told them I was not giving them Alyssa because I was not going to get her back. This went back a couple times. I told them that if they wanted me to take her, I could ride with them and take her, or they could follow me, and they still were not going for that. They wanted to take Alyssa. Finally, the chief of police stepped in and told them that he was not going to allow them to take her because, one, they don't have court order, two, they don't have proper papers, and he had asked me if I will take her to the ER just to be checked out and make sure everything was okay, and then call him the next morning and let him know that I went to call the caseworker, let her know I took her, and I did. I left right then and there, took her to the ER, sat in the ER for another 4 hours. She was perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. The intake nurse even marked it in her report that I was very attentive to Alyssa, that I was breastfeeding her just fine. Her weight was just fine. She was completely healthy. The next morning, I called the chief of police, let him know that I took her, called the CPS girl that was trying to take her the day before, let her know she was supposed to come out to the house and do purple crying and safe care. And after I got off the phone with her a few hours later, 2 new CPS workers showed up at my house with 3 different detectives for order to take Alyssa. So I had to open my door. I got Alyssa ready, had her in her car seat. They went to put her in the car. They were discussing about taking her back to the ER to have her checked. And one of the detectives told the caseworker that it was unnecessary because I had just taken her the night before. So they brought her back next to the cop car. They had me undress her in the back seat of the cop car to show them that there was no marks on her. So I did. There's no marks on her. Put her back in her car seat, and they took her. They wanted me to come in the same day at 2 o'clock to have a shelter care hearing with them when I didn't have an attorney, and I told them I was not showing up without an attorney. So we didn't go that day. I didn't see her for a whole week, and then finally I got to go see her, have a visit, and we had our, I mixed up, hold on. We had our shelter care hearing. I hadn't seen her since they took her. It was a week. When we went to the shelter care hearing, the midwife had gone. My attorney that was supposed to represent me gave me the papers because me and my ex-husband represented ourselves at the first hearing. As I was going through the court papers, before I got to the paper that stated who called, the midwife had told me she had to tell me something, and I said okay. And that's when she had told me that she was the one that called CPS on me when I was 7 months pregnant. She wanted to take Alyssa into her care so she wouldn't have to go into foster care with a stranger. So the judge agreed on it. It was in the court order that I had 3 days a week for 2-hour visits, and then I had unlimited visits at the midwife's house. I only had 2 visits at the midwife's house within the 6 months that she had Alyssa. What am I missing? During the whole time that she had Alyssa, there was a conversation that we had on Facebook that she had told me one morning that her and her husband were talking about it the night before, and they were willing to adopt Alyssa if I didn't get her back. She knew full well that I would get Alyssa back, but she was still leaning towards adopting her. She was planning on adopting a baby before I had Alyssa, but the mom changed her mind. So I think that kind of ties into it because she slowly started pulling away from me. About 2 months into having Alyssa, she started really pulling away from me. When I left my ex-husband and went into the DV shelter, she cut ties with me completely. Around Christmas, they were going on vacation for Christmas. The week before they were leaving, I had a visit, and she had a rash on her bottom. It was from front to back, and it was inflamed, like fire red inflamed, and it hurt her. When she went back, I requested that the midwife use cornstarch on her rash, that it would go away, and she had claimed that it made it worse, that it was a yeast infection. The cornstarch wasn't going to make it any better. She went on vacation, and the only reason why I agreed for her to go on vacation with them is for her, she was going to Colorado where my family was. The deal was that if she took her with her, she had to meet up with my family so they could meet my daughter. She contacted my family the very last day she was in Colorado, just a few hours before they were getting ready to leave. My mom had just gotten done with chemo and radiation when she called to have them come see Alyssa. She was 5 minutes away from my mom's house. She refused to take Alyssa to my mom's house. She wanted my mom to come meet her somewhere else, even though she knew what my mom was dealing with her radiation and chemo. So my mom and dad never got to meet Alyssa. When she came back from vacation, Alyssa still had the rash on her bottom, but this time it was sores with clear fluid coming out of them. I had mentioned something to the caseworker the first time I seen the rash, and the caseworker had even agreed that it was neglect on the midwife's behalf. The second time I seen the rash, I requested them take me to the emergency room with her, and they refused to take me. They said that my midwife had already taken her to the doctors, and it was a yeast infection. And I had told them there is no way that's a yeast infection, because a yeast infection does not have open sores that are oozing clear fluid. She said that there was nystatin cream that was supposed to be put on her twice a day, but there was never any cream that come in her diaper bag. I've had a daughter. I know what a yeast infection looks like. I know that the nystatin cream goes on after every diaper change, but there was never any cream in her diaper bag. The second visit that I seen that rash, I had another CPS worker say that it was neglect on the midwife's behalf. My next visit after the second rash, I had cooked some flour and brought the flour with me and started putting it on Alyssa's bottom every time I changed her. I seen her for 2 hours, changed her 3 times, and after every time I changed her, I put the cooked flour on her bottom. It started taking the redness away, but the sores were still there. She didn't use the flour either. I had sent her clothes for Christmas that I got her, the pink dress that she's wearing in her picture. That was my last visit with her. I had sent that with her after I had seen her when she came back from vacation. It got sent back to me with a letter with all of her pacifiers and all of her toys that I had sent her for Christmas, and was told not to send any more clothes, not to send her any more pacifiers because she doesn't take them. But it's funny that she takes it for me. I don't understand how she doesn't take a pacifier for her. Anyway, she sent her stuff back. I had a meeting with the department on Wednesday, the Wednesday before she had passed away, with the department to do safe care and traumatic counseling. That's all they were requiring me to do because they stated in front of the judge. Yeah, that's what I forgot. The first judge that I filed a motion with before she went on Christmas vacation denied me having her back with me in the DV shelter. The second time my attorney filed the motion again went in front of a Seattle judge. The Seattle judge, before they even had the hearing, brought my caseworker, the supervisor, and my attorney into her chambers and asked them what was going on, that she wanted them to come up with an agreement, an agreeable dependency case, because I did not deserve to have Alyssa taken from me because of the domestic violence that I went through. So I met with the department. We agreed on safe care, traumatic counseling. They were all trying to help me find housing. They were all supposed to be trying to pitch in to help get my daughter back. So I left. I was in a good mood. I was happier than anything. Thursday, I got a phone call that one of the church ladies from my church, she was going to help me get into housing. She called me on Thursday, told me that she had buyed me 20 more days in the DV shelter, and she had told me that she would get me into housing in less than 20 days. So I was ecstatic. That's all I needed to get Alyssa. My attorney told me that she was looking at less than a month before I would get Alyssa back. Friday, I was talking to my foster care worker through text messages. She was supposed to come up to Everett to do my car. They were paying to get plates on my car and my license, but I didn't have the title, so I was informing her that I didn't have the title. We couldn't do my car. She had told me that she had messaged the midwife about a visit that weekend because I hadn't seen Alyssa in a week. So she was trying to get me a visit at her house for the weekend. My midwife had messaged her back and told her that she was too sick, that I couldn't have a visit today. She never clarified if Alyssa was too sick or if it was her that was too sick. Little did I know, this whole time I was talking to my foster care worker, my daughter was already gone. Her time of death was 4 a.m. The midwife didn't call emergency services until 11:51. The first detective didn't show up until noon. I didn't get the phone call until 4 in the afternoon. My foster care supervisor and my foster care worker FaceTimed me and told me that there had been a tragedy. And all I was thinking was that the tragedy, I wasn't even comprehending the word tragedy. I was thinking that Alyssa went to the hospital because her rash got worse. And my foster care supervisor popped her head in and said that my daughter had passed away. The first initial story that they had told me was that they laid her down at 3 in the afternoon for a nap and she didn't wake up. It didn't make sense to me because Alyssa was 6 months old. She sleeps at least an hour or 2 hours. So it didn't make sense. When they told me that, I dropped the phone. I was at a gas station, so I was in the gas station parking lot screaming and crying. I made it back to the DV shelter. And they were my attorney was trying to get me down to the midwife's house. It was 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I got a phone call from my attorney saying that I couldn't go down there because there was still officers in the house. They had scheduled me to see Alyssa. It got put off twice, me going to see Alyssa after she had passed away. I had to pay $300 in order to see my daughter for 2 hours, and I only got 45 minutes with her. When I seen her, she had a mark on her arm. It was a red line going up her forearm. I've asked the medical examiner about it, and she had told me that she seen it in the pictures, but it was very faint. She said that it was probably more prominent when I seen it. It was only a small line when she seen it, but when I seen it, it went from her wrist all the way up to her elbow. I have called them numerous times. They told me that it was going to be 8 to 10 weeks before I had the exam back. And this coming Tuesday will be 11 weeks.
Nothing.
And it's still not back. I was supposed to have a doctor call me and explain labs to me that weren't back yet. She was supposed to call me and explain the red mark on her arm if they knew what it was. They claimed that she didn't have a rash when they examined her, and it just seemed kind of funny to me that it was there all of December. When she came back from her vacation, I didn't see her until January 3rd, and all of a sudden it disappeared by January 12th. What am I forgetting, Cory?
You're not. You're doing really good.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Give the timeline.
They, CPS had told me that they were going to give me an open credit card for her funeral expenses, and I would not have to worry about anything. But they would have to notify my ex-husband that they gave me the card, and I was taking care of the burial services. At first, I didn't want to do this because I knew there was going to be a battle over my daughter's body with my in-laws, and that's exactly what happened. So I was tired of it, and I just wanted to bury her and take care of her. They wanted to take her back to Michigan away from her mom, and I'm the only one that stayed here and fought for her.
Yeah.
My ex took off and left us. He took off and left to Florida. So I stayed here and fight for my daughter on my own. When the fighting started over my daughter's body, I had called my attorney and asked her if she could get a hold of my caseworker and let them know that I was willing to take the credit card, even if they had to inform him, because I was told if I had started the funeral arrangements, he wouldn't be able to stop me. So I had her call and tell them that I wanted to do the credit card. She called me back and informed me that they were no longer offering me the open credit card because she was only in shelter care. So I didn't get the credit card. So now I am at the position of trying to prove that she didn't die from SIDS. I know the bed that she slept in. It's one of the SID prevention beds. So there is no way that she could have rolled over and died from SIDS unless her face was covered with a blanket or whatever. I don't even want to think about it. She didn't die from SIDS. I know she didn't die from SIDS. She was healthy. I have 6 other kids that have never had a problem in their life. I don't believe SIDS runs in my family.
Well, and the timeline
is just
so
crazy.
questionable.
There is an 8-hour gap. Nobody knows what's going on in this 8-hour gap.
According to the coroner, died at 4 a.m. EMTs weren't called until
11:51.
Yeah. So I mean, what happened in that span of time? And really, like, it really bothers me because 8 to 10 weeks for the toxicology report. It's going on. It has been 11 weeks, right? Or it's going on 11
It'll
weeks.
be 11 weeks Tuesday.
Yeah. So I mean, she called today to try to get some information for the toxicology, and that it's not back yet. So
And I have
you're doing really well, and thank you, for sharing your story with everyone, because I think it's really important that we expose some of these stories so people understand what's going on. And I'm very, very sorry for your loss. There were a couple of things that that you both had mentioned to me that I wanted to make sure were discussed a little bit more thoroughly. There was the question that Cory just brought up as far as the timeline, because not only have you lost your child in this, it's under a very suspicious set of circumstances, and then there's also what you had told me earlier about the midwife who basically took control of your child. It seemed like that was premeditated, and she was in this in a position where she was able to take a child from somebody, and aside from the tragic circumstances that happened, it exposes how easy it is that once somebody gets into this system, that they can violate somebody's rights and take their child away from them without any kind of just cause, without any reasoning, and because somebody else may have had some sort of an ulterior motive, and they didn't protect you from that. So I'd like for either one of you, if you want to elaborate a little bit on that. I think that that's a really important part of the story to share as well.
Go ahead.
Well, they can just take your kids on just about anything. I mean, mine was based off of a false arrest. Charges were dropped and everything, and I was supposed to get my children back the very next day, and the next thing you know, they wanted a drug test, and then the next thing you know, 4 days later, they're waiting for the labs to come back or the urinalysis to come back, and then the next thing, it just continued and snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and then all of a sudden you realize a year and a half has gone by and you haven't had your kids back based on lies. So, and yeah, they can just come and take your. Nobody's exempt from having their children taken away from them. That's my thoughts on that. I mean, I've heard enough stories now since I've been involved in this, and learned my own.
And to take a baby, my attorney told me the reason why they wanted Alyssa so bad is because she was white, healthy, and drug-free, and she was a newborn.
And it seems like it's only getting worse. I mean, the longer that we go, and the more that this keeps happening to people, we try to change these laws, we try to expose these things, and you look at some of the laws that they're changing, and they're actually putting more power in the hands of the state. And that's kind of what I opened with originally, with this dental office that's threatening to report people's children and the parents to the state because they're late on a dental visit. I mean, not only is that an abuse of power, it's also, they're essentially saying, you either need to come in here, buy our service. They're profiting off of this as well because it's a dental office. It's a for-profit business. And they're saying, if you don't show up on time for your appointment, we're going to report you to the state. So they're putting pressure on people just to come in and buy whatever their services are. And that's a slippery slope. I mean, where does that stop? I mean, that's one of these situations that we're dealing with in our country right now, where the state has so much power, and they're essentially becoming the nanny state, where the state is the parent and the parents have absolutely no rights. And if the state wants to come in and take your child away from you, they're essentially walking into court telling lies. They can make up anything that they want and take your child away from you.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's what you just said is true. One of my lawyers from my lawsuit said, it's like they just started writing this story about you, a corrupt story, false lies, and just rolled with it and continued to carry on and carry on and carry on. And it's like they wrote my life in a completely different light than who I was as a parent or a person, and just created this story about me and just ran with it, and the judge just allowed it, and all this lying on the stand. And I mean, it just blew me away, that because I honestly, I didn't know, before this happened, I didn't know CPS did this. I had no idea. I was so foreign to it. So that's why, one of the reasons why I speak out, and I think I do speak a lot of times on deaf ears, unless people have been through it, or my family members or my friends that know me, they know that this should not have happened to my family. So I mean, people really don't.
And that was exactly my experience as well. And the one thing that I've discovered through this whole process, there wasn't any reason why I shouldn't have been treated fairly in the family court system. When I went in, I mean, it was basically a simple divorce. I told you the other day, when we first filed, me and my ex, we literally walked into the courthouse together and filed the same 50-50 parenting plan. We were that much in agreement until the system got involved, until the attorneys got involved, until people started talking about, oh, well, no, you should get this, this, and this. You should fight for this. And that's the thing, is the system is designed in such a way, the family court system is designed to create this conflict. And once they want to paint a picture a certain way, it doesn't matter what evidence comes out that paints a completely different picture. It's, people say that it's a horse and pony show, and it really is. They go in there and it's like they've already decided what they want the outcome to be. It doesn't matter what the evidence is. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how great of a person you are. If they decide they want it one way and they're going to profit off of it in some way, it's like they just decide in a closed meeting somewhere that this is what the outcome they want they want to be, and then they make it happen. It has absolutely nothing to do with the justice that we believed growing up, and before we ever went into the system, how it was supposed to work. We thought that there were standards of evidence. We thought that there was an actual trial where they had to follow laws. And if somebody broke a law and somebody perjured themselves in court, that they would get in trouble for that. But they've completely taken all of that away.
Right. Yeah. No. And in our case, when we had, I don't know how many people we had named in my lawsuit, several, down to the foster parents. It's just like we were talking about earlier. Nobody was. There's no accountability. It's like we settled our lawsuit and they just walked away and went on their merry way and went back to the same destruction that they were doing.
It's business as usual. That's the way that they operate.
Yes. The primary social worker that we sued, she wasn't even fired or demoted, or like one of my attorneys said, usually when she sues somebody under these circumstances, they get demoted or they will transfer them to a different, maybe a different office somewhere else. She was blown away because the social worker, I logged you out, I'm sorry. I was trying to get into my account. She wasn't even nothing. She wasn't fired. She wasn't demoted. She wasn't transferred to any other office. She's still there raising Cain. And then I found out my other attorney for my lawsuit, he took her on in court again, and she was lying, and she actually got this father's. They did an assessment for him. I think it was anger management or some kind of assessment like that, and he passed it. And then the social worker did the same thing to him, she called the assessor, and this assessor, she was able to get him to tweak his assessment, so he went from pass to fail, and the judge allowed it when my lawyer was before the judge in representing this family. The judge allowed it. They just swept it right under the rug.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable
and
what
this
they can get away with.
You're absolutely right, and I mean it's the same thing with the CPS and foster care cases. It's the same thing with the family court system. I don't know how many other people I've told, oh yeah, I got screwed over in court, and they kind of shake their head and they're like, yeah, me too. That's what happens, and it's like, okay, well wait a second. That's not what's supposed to happen. How are you supposed to go into a court of law where you're supposed to have laws upheld? You've got judges and attorneys that take an oath to uphold your constitutional rights, and they completely throw it all out the window. That's not my expectation. That's not what our tax dollars are supposed to be paying for. I mean, this is supposed to be a government that's run for the people, by the people, when they're running it for themselves. They're running it for the bar administration, for the attorneys, for the corporations. They're not protecting the rights of the people, and this is supposed to be our government. These are supposed to be the people that we put in place, that we elect into office, or that we hire to protect our rights. And they're blatantly violating our rights and taking advantage of their position. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if this could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. I mean, there was
That's what I've been screaming my guts out for years.
Been that way.
But nobody wants to listen. It's really difficult to get people to listen and to understand. I mean, it's just and like I think you had mentioned it last night. It's like you can tell people, but unless it really truly affects them, they're not going to really understand what you're going through or help us unless they just don't. A lot of people don't understand, is my experience, unless they've been there.
And the worst part of it is the acceptance. There's people that just say, that's just how it is. You should just accept it and just move on. And they're not willing to take a stand against this when they look at all of the things that our government is doing, the corruption, all of the bad things that are wrong with their system. I mean, look how bad the social problems have got in our country. I mean, we've got kids that are going into school shooting up their classmates, and yet people are wondering why this is happening. And we've got a breakdown of the families. We've got a corrupt government. We've got essentially corporations that are, there are so many problems that we could bring up in this particular country, and people just kind of shake their heads and are complacent, and they're like, well, it's going to get really, really bad, and then, you know, the whole system's going to break down, and we're just going to start new. And I actually had that conversation with someone today, and I'm like, wait a second. I don't want to allow that to happen. We have a system that was designed a certain way to be run, like I said, for the people, by the people, where we have a way to make a difference. We can put other people in place. We can expose the corruption that's going on and not leave it to our kids to deal with later because people
I
don't want to
know.
get involved or think that they can't do anything about it. I get so tired of that attitude and hearing people that are just saying, well, there's nothing really that we can do about it. It's too big. It's too big of a problem for me to worry about. You know, I've got to
Yes,
do this. I've got to do that. I'm not impacted by it. So I want to go watch my football game, or I want to go, you know, to
right?
my barbecue this weekend. I'm not going to go to a protest event. I'm not going to go write my
I know.
legislator. That's the
Right.
problem is
That is
people have
that
essentially
is the
become
problem.
complacent.
That is that's the biggest problem. Agreed.
So what are we going to do about it?
But there's one thing that I did forget to tell you.
Yeah, Ellie keeps. Are you talking about Ellie?
Yes.
But Ellie's mentioning it.
Ellie reminded me. Thank you, Ellie. When I went to see her after she had passed away, when I paid the $300 to see her, after I was done and I was standing outside, the funeral director had handed Kevin a box that I had brought her booties in, and Alyssa's hat that the midwife had made her was in there. I didn't open this box at the time. I didn't want anything to do with it. When my friend had picked up my stuff from the DV shelter, she had picked up that box as well. She had opened the box, and folded nicely inside the hat was her sleeper that she was in when she was picked up from midwife's house. And there was blood on the back of her sleeper. Now, if she passed away at 4 a.m. and they didn't come until 11:51, they wouldn't have tried to resuscitate her.
No.
Why would there be blood on the back of her sleeper? And it looks like
No.
there's like a glue, like it looks like almost like super
does.
glue on the back of her sleeper where the blood is. I haven't messed with it too much. I just put it back in the box and sealed it up. They had wanted me to hand it over to the medical examiner, and I told them I wasn't going to do that. I was going to give it to my own personal medical examiner to be tested to find out if it's Alyssa's blood or if it's somebody else's blood. I had brought it up to the detective, and he had told me that I should probably get a hold of the medical examiner and give that evidence to them. They were not interested in the sleeper at all. They were not informed that she had the rash the whole month of December. They were not informed that she had a cough. I have a video that I had posted on Facebook that shows my last visit of her having a hard time breathing. She had a really bad cough. They knew none of this. Nobody had reported any of this to the medical examiner. But I needed to bring up the onesie because I forgot. But that's an important piece of evidence.
There's a lot of very, very questionable things that happened, and what is the status? Can you share what the status is now? You said that they were.
The detective told me that they cannot release any police reports yet because it's still under investigation. Nobody called me, contacted me over this case. No prosecutor, no detectives, nobody. I had to call everybody myself. I had to pest everybody myself. Nobody was calling me back. I've requested her medical records for the last month and a half.
Yeah, and
I still haven't received them.
So mad.
I asked them for the doctor's name that the midwife was taking her to for her checkups. I still have not received the name of the doctor she was being seen. She was not supposed to have any immunization shots. I don't know if she did because the midwife was pretty much taking control over my daughter. So I don't know if she was given any shots, if she was given the flu shot, if that's how she passed away. I don't. They even had it in their computers in the department that she died of SIDS before they even did the medical exam. The people in the same department didn't know that my daughter passed away. Everybody was always excited when they knew Alyssa was coming in for a visit at the department. Every time she came in, they all swarmed her because of her smile. How can they go from that to not anybody knowing that my daughter passed away? My daughter hasn't been on the news. She hasn't been acknowledged one time. All they want to do is shove it under the rug. Yeah. That is why I am trying so hard to get this second exam. It is very, very important to get.
And all of the attorneys that she and I have talked to, they all agree.
They have agreed.
There definitely needs to be a second exam done.
So,
I mean, it's so
aside from sharing the story with everybody, what can anybody that's listening or wants to know more, what can they do to help?
I need people to share her page. I share her page at least once or twice a day. I need help sharing her page. I need help getting her story out there. I need help with the GoFundMe account. Yeah, I've had some in the past. I don't have access to them. That is when I was fighting for my kids in Michigan, asking people for help. I need this money for the second exam. Everybody is supposed to be fighting for the same thing. My daughter needs justice. She needs a voice. She was only 6 months old. There was wrongdoing. Everybody has heard this.
It's never forget Alyssa Fero, ALYSSAFERO, and also, she's bringing up the GoFundMe, but there's funeral expenses as well, and the flight to get Alyssa to Denver, because 10 days after Alyssa passed away, Shavon's mother passed away, and she wants them buried together. So. And there's been a plot donated to Alyssa in Denver. The expenses for that would be the flight and the actual labor, the labor for the digging of where the plot will be. So, I mean, there's quite a few.
All the expenses. It's the funeral costs, the permits to fly her out there, the plane ticket. I have to buy her a plane ticket, and myself. I have to fly with her. That's the only way they will do it. I have to have the money to embalm her. I have to have money for a casket. And I have to have money for a second exam, and I have nothing. I was left with nothing. So I need help. I'm not trying to line my pockets. I'm not trying to take money from
there's been a lot of
anybody to support myself.
Thanks, Ellie.
It's all about Alyssa.
Ellie just put up the page, the name of the page for those that want to see it. Ellie Winters. Never forget Alyssa Fero. Yeah, and also we've also said, because there's been such slandering of Shavon regarding the GoFundMe, we also suggested that you can donate to the funeral home. If people want to do that, they can do that as well.
And hopefully somebody out there listening can help. I very, very much feel for your story, Shavon, and everything that you've told me, Cory, as well. That's the drama that has come out in this movement with people wanting to share their stories and wanting to expose what's been going on. It's just gotten so bad. And the thing is there's so many people that are out there that are hurting, so many people that need help, and I traditionally don't really share fundraisers and GoFundMes and all that sort of thing, but I've heard your story, and I've talked to both of you, and I believe what you have to say is genuine. I believe that both of you have been through a tremendous amount, and just to come out and share your story. If people want to help, they can help. I don't understand why there are so many people out there that have so much negativity and would want to slander you over after everything that you've been through and after everything that so many of us have been through, we all need to, we're in this together, and we're all in this,
Right.
the vast majority of us are in this for the right reasons, and to try to fix the system. And not only because we've had something bad that's happened to us, but because we want to help other people, and we want to raise awareness so that we
Yes.
can not leave that for the next generation to keep getting worse and worse. So I thank you both very much for sharing your stories, and for everything that you do as well. I did want to also mention, you guys have been talking about doing an event that's coming up. That would give people the opportunity, to come out to meet you face to face, talk to you about these stories, talk to you about things that have happened. It's a really, really good way for people to come together and fight for change that we really, really need to happen. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been planning here in Washington?
Yeah. No, excuse me. I just got frustrated the other night.
Yeah, we both.
We were both frustrated the other night, and I just said, you know what? I remember back, like I was mentioning earlier, back in 2000, I believe it was at 2008, when Senator Roach did have her rally in Olympia, and I just said, after we spoke a little bit with Susanna Frame from King 5, which that's still. We were probably going to have her, she's probably going to do a story on Alyssa, which would be very beneficial to her, the GoFundMe, everything, and just getting Alyssa's name out there. But then after we spoke with her, I was just like so frustrated for Shavon and Alyssa, and I was like, let's just go do a rally. Even if it's just a 2-man rally, just her and I. I don't care if it's her and I. Great if there's other people joining us. But we're going to do that on April 23rd. We have a page for it, but I need to edit that because I put April 22nd because that's her daughter's birthday, and I made a mistake. But yeah, so April 23rd at
11 o'clock.
11 a.m. in Olympia, the Capitol.
We were hoping to do a candlelight visual on Sunday night for Alyssa, and then have the rally on Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is.
I'd love to support you on that. As soon as you get your event page up, I'll help share that out. We've got a pretty big network here within the state of Washington. We'll get that out to as many people as possible. I'd like to come out there and support you. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to come out and support this very, very good cause, and help us build something so that we can get a team of people working together that'll start to change these these problems. And I've got quite a few people that are working on the family court reform issues as well. I'm trying to connect as much as I can with the folks that are working on the CPS and foster care reform issues.
Yeah.
So if we all come together and work together in our state, that's something that hopefully we can kind of set the example for other people to do in their states as well, and drive some real positive change.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Ellie. Yeah, and we want, and before you and I even actually started talking the other night on the phone about this, I might have even mentioned it to her. Like, we really should merge this event. We already we did create the page. It's sorry.
Hold on, I'll look.
I've been, as you know, I spent like over 24 hours completely exhausted because we had so much stuff happening.
It's all right. Take your time.
What's that?
I said it's okay. Take your time.
Yeah. So it's the page that we have. I have it listed on my page, and we've got it on Never Forget Alyssa Fero. But it's the Washington State Anti-CPS Rally. It does say 4/22/18. My fault. I got to fix that. I don't even know how to do that. That's why I was asking if you knew how to edit that, the headline. But we did actually create an event that's on is this on the actual page? Yeah, you went straight to the page. So there is an event that we did create, but we do, like you were saying earlier, I really need to start working on this a little bit more and editing it, and posting it in more Washington State groups, but we want as many Washington State people to come as we can that have been affected by
Let their voices be heard.
Not just CPS, but family court as well. I want to merge the two. So because we're all kind of experiencing the same thing, you know.
They're very interrelated issues. I mean, when you're talking about the federal funding issue, when you're talking about the laws, when you're talking about parental rights issues, when you're talking about corruption and people taking advantage of the system, I mean, these are all things that we can relate on, even if our, you know, our experiences are a little bit different. The root causes of all these problems are the same. So I'm absolutely on the same page with you. You know, that we've grown a lot of support for family court reform issues. We want to continue to grow support for the CPS reform and foster care issues. Like I said, I will support your event. I'll do anything that I can to help the both of you. You know, I appreciate your support and what we're working on as well. And we'll work together as a team, and we'll start making this stuff happen.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then, you know, it's like I said, I've already dealt with the CPS issue with my children, but I've also been in the family court team too, and that wasn't fun. So, I mean, I know what both sides. Unfortunately, I know both sides. So, yeah, and it feels the same, you know, in a way, it does. Speaking from someone who's had to deal with both courts, it is similar. It is it's different, but it feels the same. Your loss is loss. So
that's right. Well, I thank you very much for coming on. You know, once again, I'm so sorry for what both of you have been through, but I appreciate everything that you're doing to try to drive positive change. I appreciate you coming on tonight. You know, we can, if there's more that we want to share about your stories or anything that you're working on, we can come on. We can do more live feeds.
Yeah, we should.
Everybody join the page. Feel free to post links to the page in the live feed so people know where to find you. Everybody knows where to find me already. So let's just keep on driving forward. And thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it a lot. Yes. I'm glad we were able to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to meet you next month. So
absolutely. Any final words before we cut off for the night?
Never forget Alyssa.
Yeah.
There you go. Never forget Alyssa. Thank you so much, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, you too. Have a good weekend. I'll keep in touch with you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right. Yep, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll get back to questions too, because there was that's what I was gonna say. Is I saw a lot of people, you know, leaving comments, and I can't follow the comments and talk at the same time, or even listen to her talk, and it's just so can't multitask like that. My brain doesn't work that fast anymore. I'm getting old. So we'll come back, and if there's questions directed at us, we'll come back and respond to those as well. So, because we don't want to, we don't want to feel like
no
people
negativity.
Feel like, yeah, no negative, no, yeah.
Well, people already know I got a reputation for not dealing with it at all. I either ignore it or I block it, or I just don't. I don't play into any of that nonsense. So if people are posting a bunch of nonsense on my line, I'm just going to delete them and not deal with them. So. You know, yeah, no more negativity. It's not helping anybody. You know, I think that when people go down that road, they just expose who they are. So, you know, let's not play that. But yeah, we'll go back through the comments, answer any questions, and
yeah, I just don't want people
we can always go live again.
I didn't want people to think, because I was seeing them like come by, and I just didn't want people to think that we're ignoring anybody. We were not. We'll come back and we'll respond to some, because I saw some questions pop up. But so that's my final word.
All right.
But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Shavon. Have a good night, both of you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.